So then we go to the war pattern in the Book of Mormon. What's the use of all those wars? Why are they included in the Book of Mormon? Isn't that horrible, gruesome stuff? Do you really need to listen to or read all that stuff? Yes, we do, because there is a war pattern also. There are 4 to 5 wars in the Book of Mormon that are led by Alma the Younger, Captain Moroni a number of times, and Helaman also is one of them, and Captain Moronihah, and again Helaman. Read all those scriptures. Alma chapter 2, Alma chapter 43 and chapter 44, 46, chapters 48 through 55, chapters 59 through 62, and Alma 56 through 58 where it talks about Helaman. Alma 63, Moronihah, Helaman chapter 1, chapter 4. Why do you think that 13 chapters of Isaiah were included in the Book of Mormon? Chapters 2 through 14 of Isaiah are quoted in 2 Nephi, chapters 12 through 24. Just because of historical interest? I don't think so. Because those wars are going to repeat themselves in our day. Right here in our promised land. Right here in where you're living now. Because they cover the whole land of the Americas. You know how hard it was to inscribe on gold plates? It was laborious. And why would Nephi spend that much time doing so? When those chapters spoke about the apostasy of God's people, the Assyrian invasion of the promised land that we read about in the previous podcast, and the worldwide destruction by the Assyrian Alliance of nations that comes on the heels of all of that, on the heels of God's people apostatizing and bringing on the day of judgment. It's right there in the Book of Mormon in the war pattern. All of these wars, these 4 to 5 wars, have common elements. When you put them all side by side, you see that they create a war pattern. And that war pattern is there's apostasy among God's people. There's wickedness everywhere in the promised land. So the Lord allows a foreign power to invade the promised land. An alliance of nations invades the promised land and starts destroying the wicked. The Lord using the wicked to destroy the wicked. A righteous prophet of God stands up against this and heads a movement to eventually overthrow the invading power. And that would be the Lord's arm that we're going to talk about when the arm of the Lord is revealed in power. That we talk about the very next podcast. So this war pattern really clues us in, the war pattern in the Book of Mormon, of what Isaiah is predicting, which Nephi also quotes in 2 Nephi 12 through 24. Read them in my translation, the Isaiah Institute translation. You'll get a very much clearer idea of what they're talking about. One more scriptural pattern in the Book of Mormon that I want to talk about. Jesus' appearance in the Book of Mormon. President Benson was noted in conference for saying that Jesus coming to the Nephites was a type and shadow of his coming, of the second coming to Zion in the end time. Of course, we also have a great type in Enoch's people of how Enoch, how he was sent to preach to 7 nations who were in a state of abominations and wickedness. And he converted the people of God. He converted a people from these 7 nations who became a people of God. And their enemies came against them, their enemies being former friends, associates, family members perhaps. And they went through a series of trials of meeting that opposition and remaining faithful to the Lord, so much so that eventually Enoch led them to become a Zion people. They attained a sanctified state from being wicked, being full of iniquity and so forth, to becoming a sanctified people of God. And then when they reached that sanctified state and purified their lives, and there was no more iniquity in them, then the Savior came and dwelt with them. Or the Savior could come to Zion, and eventually Zion was taken up into heaven. And that is also a great pattern for our day. When we establish Zion, and by the way, Zion is never established among Latter-day Saints, as I mentioned previously. It's established among the house of Israel, whom the Latter-day Saints gather, whom the kings and queens of the Gentiles gather to Zion. Then Zion is established, finally, in the Book of Mormon.